CPBRD of the House noted that DepEd's budget utilization rate is 96.7%. If this utilization rate remains constant in 2023, a 3.3% will still become an unused appropriation amounting to around 23 billion pesos, which would still be high. So may I inquire how the DepEd intends to continuously improve its budget utilization to close the gap in the education sector?
Right, thank you. Yusek Sevilla of the Finance Strand.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Honorable Senator Hontiveros. Actually, ma'am, talagang mahirap ma-reach ang 100% budget utilization. It's really impossible. For example, in procurement, nobody will bid exactly the same price ng approved budget for the contract. So that is something na palagi rin po namin ina-explain na it's really very difficult to reach. In fact, ma'am, 97% is really the perfect for the financial performance. Yung 3% po, talagang napakalaki yan for the Department of Education. But what we are doing is, pag maaga po ang procurement, pwedeng mag-reorder. At yun po yung ginagawa natin na sana maaga na mapoprocure ang mga dapat na i-procure. And I think yung pong sa school building program, I would like to add and confirm na talaga pong maraming improvement na nangyayari noon. Kasi minsan binibigay yung budget, hindi pa po ready for implementation. And so what we're doing is what we propose or what we request should be ready for implementation. And actually po ma'am, kung magpo-propose tayo, talagang yung pinakita ni Senator Pia, it would be the ideal. But we are not requesting for that because it's not possible to be implemented in 1 year time. So yun din po yung ginagawa namin sa lahat ng mga program teams and executive committee members na kung ano yung kaya natin, that's we call the absorptive capacity. And we assess kung ano po yung kulang pa sa amin. I think planning is also very important. Kaya po sa finance, laging kapartner yung planning. Isa pa po sa gusto naming mangyari is yung early procurement activity. So kahit wala pa po yung GAA 2023 using the NEP 2023, our undersecretaries are instructed by our BP Secretary to prepare for 2023. At yun po sana yung mga early procurement activities or isa pa po ito, policies. Sometimes nandiyan na po yung budget, kagaya na nangyari sa SPED, kailangan po yung policy nakahanda na para po pag na-approve yung budget, ready for implementation. So these are the things po na amin pong ginagawa. Isa pa rin po na maganda is at the end of the year, when you have a saving at nagkakaroon po ng mga batas na nagbibigay ng allowances or benefits, pinaghahandaan din po namin yun. But this is only chargeable to personnel services or PS. Isa pa po ma'am, ang tingin namin, ang bulk ng aming savings ay yung sa filling up of position. Kasi po yung availability rin ng mga, yun nga, yung mga takers. For example, we have budget for guidance counselors pero wala naman pong nakakapasa or hindi nako-qualify or sometimes it takes time. So ito po yung mga savings na at the end of the year nakikita namin. But we are really trying our best ma'am by moving forward together as a team with the proper planning and regular financial monitoring po. Thank you po, Your Honor.
Maraming salamat din, Yusek Sevilla. It's always good to hear how yung iba't iba pang maraming tasks ng department ginagamit nyo para ma-maximize yung utilization even further and in that way create even more fiscal space for the department. Chair, were you going to? Okay, yes.
Secretary would like to say something.
Yes, thank you, Your Honors. In addition to that, the finance strand for this year, we already inventoried the budget that will lapse by December 31, and you have the number. Yes, and we already wrote the strands who have pending items, and much of it is with the procurement because of the election ban and the delay in the reconstitution of our bids and awards committee because of we were waiting for the appointments of our USECs and ASECs.
Salamat kaayo, Sec. To my next subject, Madam Chair, on affirmative action on IP education. So it it's come also to my attention that the IP education program's budget was reduced from 144.3 million pesos this year 2022 to 53.4 million pesos in the NEP 2023. So kung tama po ito, may I inquire as to the reason for this significant decrease by 2/3, and given the reduced funding, what's to be done to strengthen our IP education program despite this loss of 90.9 million pesos?
Yes, thank you. Yusek Sevilla of the Finance Strand will answer.
Maraming salamat po, ma'am. Actually, ma'am, talagang ang 2020 and 2021 had a big effect in our program implementation because of the no face-to-face blended, yung naging blended approach po tayo. At ng lahat po ng programa namin, we try to reprioritize and reallocate. But for iPad, marami po sa mga programa nila requires the convening of learners. And so that's the reason why yung utilization po nila ay mababa in the 2 previous years. At yun po yung nangyari sa NEP nila. But iPad will be among the restorations that we will request our budget sponsors to do. So kasama po dito yung SPED, iPad, and all the other curriculum and instruction programs na mababa po yung utilization in the past 2 years. And we will internally realign using our flexible learning options po na pondo.
Salamat, Yusek. Kaugnay pa rin nito, whether it will be Yusek still to answer or the SEC would care to comment, central to that IP education program of ours is the recruitment and the hiring of IP teachers o yung ating mga guro mula mismo sa mga katutubong komunidad. So, may I ask the Secretary or the Yusek if there is an ongoing program that encourages scholarships for teachers' education from IP communities? And can this also in particular be given attention in the utilization of funds sa ilalim ng Education Human Resource Development Program?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Yusek Mercado of BHROD will answer.
Yes, ma'am. We already have a department order for hiring of IP teachers. And we also have allotted a fund from our National Educators Academy program, which is building competency for teachers, specific to IP concerns. So that's taken care of. Thank you, Senator Risa.
Salamat din po, Yusek Mercado. That's good to hear po. And on a final note on this one, I recall during the SONA that the Secretary wore a Bagobo Tagabawa dress to raise public awareness on the plight of indigenous communities caught in armed conflicts. And knowing the Secretary's advocacy for peace and order, I would like to ask if DepEd, by way of affirmative action, might voluntarily realign its confidential fund to fully restore the budget cut on the IP education program? Or as a prior question, Sec, para saan po ba yung confidential fund?
Yes, for our confidential funds, this is based on. The Joint Circular 2015-01 of the COA, DBM, DILG, Governance Commission, and the Department of National Defense. And the use for this confidential funds is expenses pertaining or related to surveillance activities in civilian government agencies that are intended to support the mandate or operations of the agency, particularly those listed in 4.8 of the joint circular. And that is the purchase of information necessary for the formulation and implementation of programs, activities, and projects relevant to the national security and peace and order, rental of transport vehicles related to confidential activities, rentals and incidental expenses related to the maintenance of safe houses, purchase or rental of supplies, materials, and equipment for confidential operations that cannot be done through regular procedure, without compromising the information gathering activity concerned. Payment of rewards to informers, non-employee of concerned government agency, subject to the following conditions of A, B, and C, and uncover, prevent illegal activities that pose a clear and present danger to agency, personnel, property, or other facilities and resources under the agency protection, done in coordination with appropriate law enforcement agencies, other than that, which may be authorized by the GAA. Some of the issues and challenges that we have encountered in our field operations are the drug involvement of our personnel and our learners. We already have a case where our teacher is selling drugs to our learners, and the all forms of abuses. We have physical abuse, we have sexual abuse, and other forms. And then there is also the recruitment in violent extremism and terrorism. We also have schools which are targeted for recruitment of learners in insurgency. We also have cases, and we are working right now on the involvement of our personnel and our learners in child pornography. We are currently working with this with the Department of Justice and other illegal activities that our learners are recruited inside our schools, as well as these scams that are happening online and inside our schools, both of which victimize learners and teachers. These are just examples of cases that we have encountered in field operations.
Well, daghang salamat, Sec. I will return to my earlier question about realigning to restore fully the budget cut on the IP education program. But I do just feel the need, Madam Chair, to make of record na yung subject activities in the joint circular, parang mas bagay po, honestly, mas bagay pang confidential and intelligence funds for our existing national security, national defense, law enforcement, even women and children protection bodies, governmental bodies and programs. So just for the record on that, Madam Chair. But I'll return also to my question, Sec, kung bilang affirmative action, kung voluntarily po i-realign ng department yung confidential fund para makumpleto ulit yung natanggal na budget cut sa IP education program.
With regard to budget cuts, we can, within the Department of Education, we can work out the realignments and realignments in our budget so that we can fund activities, programs, activities, and projects that need funding. With regard to the confidential funds, this is a proposal that we submitted to Congress. And as I said earlier, with regard to the confidential funds of the Office of the Vice President, we submit to the wisdom of Congress with regard to the amount and the proprietary matter on decision on the confidential funds. But we would like to put it on record that we reassure the Congress and the public that these funds will be used in relation to what is allowed in the joint circular of those agencies mentioned earlier, 2015-01. Thank you.
Salamat po, Sec. And I appreciate, Madam Chair, yung reiteration ni Secretary nung na-appreciate din ni Minority Leader kanina, yung unang sinabi nila sa House noon na the department will submit to the wisdom of Congress dun sa halaga, kung mayroon man, at yung, propriety ng pagkakaroon ng confidential and intelligence funds ng department for such activities enumerated in the joint circular. So if I still have time, Madam Chair, in this round? Okay, salamat, Madam Chair. Balikan ko lang po yung sa ECCD, if the Secretary would care to add dun sa sinagot ni Sir Isip earlier, from the higher and the broader perspective of the department bilang ang ECCD program or ang ECCD Council attached agency, kung ano yung assessment ni Secretary about the ECCD program and what we can expect from the department to improve the performance of the ECCD councils para ma-fulfill nila yung mandate nila.
Right, yes, we already, after his question and answer earlier, we talked to Director Isip, and we asked him what is the problem with their procurement, and he made us understand that the problem is that they don't have an executive director in their council right now because their previous ED was coterminous with the appointing authority from the previous administration, and there is a pending paper application from the same executive director that is lodged with the office of the vice president. And we committed to him that we will, Yusek Densing committed to him that he will look into where the paper is right now, considering that there is also a change in the executive secretary position.
Salamat, salamat kaayo, Sec. And as chair of the Senate Committee on Women, Children, Family Relations and Gender Equality, bukas ako makipagtrabaho sa DepEd to strengthen our ECCD governance. As I believe, like all my colleagues, that it's really an investment in the future and critical, pati dun sa lifelong learning strategy na china-champion ng department. Do I still have time, Madam Chair? One last topic on the local school boards na napag-uusapan na rin at saka yung special education fund utilization. So recognizing the experience of the Secretary in local governance and on her side, the former Undersecretary of the ILG serving as her Chief of Staff, anong mga reforms, anong mga innovations ang pwede namin ma-expect mula sa department to ensure functional and effective local school boards? Parang top of mind na yung local school boards talaga ng halos lahat, and efficient utilization of the special education fund. Kapansin-pansin din po kahit nung briefing ng DBCC sa amin, sinabi ni Sec Jokno that there is in fact a surplus from the SEF. So, syempre, lahat kami interesado na ma-utilize ito para ma-achieve ang mas maraming objectives ng iba't ibang departamento natin, and lalo na ng DepEd.
Yes, Yusek Sevilla of the Finance Chan will answer the question, Your Honor.
Salamat kaayo. And Yusek, just to remind all of us, ang sinabi po ni Sec Jokno na SEF surplus is 36.8 billion pesos.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Madam Secretary, BP Secretary. Ma'am, yung Special Education Fund has a oversight supervision jointly by DepEd, DBM, and the ILG. And we have been reviewing and enhancing the joint circular on the utilization of the Special Education Fund. For the last 2 years, we made it COVID responsive, and we have allowed the use of the fund for COVID response and the support to the basic education learning continuity plan. I think, ma'am, yung programa ngayon ng ating current administration, the learning recovery and continuity plan should also be reviewed and included in the new joint circular on the use of special education fund. Marami po rito kagaya ng mga reading programs na sinasabi, shared responsibility ito. Hindi po kaya ng national government lang or ng DepEd lamang. Ang maganda po sa nakita namin during the COVID situation, marami sa mga local government, local chief executives natin ay ginamit ang local school board at nakipag-closely coordinate with our superintendents. Ang parte po ng Department of Education and the local school board is the active participation at yung pong pagbibigay kaalaman sa mga local chief executive ng mga superintendents natin. At dito po sa field operation, under our regional directors, lahat po sila ngayon actually nandito, uma-attend, ay kasama po sa binibigay namin na capacity building on the use of the special education fund. We also want to clarify na wala po kaming power or participation or control in the use of the SEF, but all of our superintendents are the vice chair of the local school board. And we are also attending a lot of the hearings on the Committee on Basic Education on the proposal to amend the composition of the local school board. At ito po ay chaired by Senator Win Gatchalian. At marami po dun sa mga proposal niya ay talagang supportive din po kami sa Department of Education. Kasi kasama rin na po sa local school board, kasama po dapat ang parents, community workers, or civil society organization, at lahat po ng stakeholders ng ating education, especially for basic education. Thank you po, Your Honor.
Maraming salamat din, Yusek Sevilla. Talagang yung mga existing instruments na meron ang DepEd, lalo na kasi nandun na nga sa phase ng learning recovery, talagang nagkakaroon ng rethinking paano siya ma-maximize for more participation of all the stakeholders to achieve our learning objectives moving forward. Kanina nga nabanggit din, I think I heard one of the 14 interventions na in-enumerate ni SEC. Something that I've also heard from some other stakeholders na pati nga yung brigada eskwela, bukod sa paglilinis, paghahanda ng ating mga paaralan, baka pwede rin siyang mamobilize for, I think I heard something about remedial classes, but may mga nag-iisip na yung catch-up classes in summer and elsewhere in breaks in the school year, ay pwedeng mamobilize din yung mga lumalahok dun sa mga brigada eskwela at the beginning of every school year. So I do hope that DepEd together with the DOF will find a way to reduce the surplus in the SEF. But more importantly also, may I ask how DepEd can help LGUs and schools with limited SEF bases to generate and mobilize resources to aid in local education service delivery?
Yusek Sevilla will answer the question for the finance strand.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Ma'am, do po sa formula ng MOE, ang regular na kinoconsider sa Department of Budget and Management is the number of enrollees, number of teachers, and number of classrooms. But now, in the formula of the Department of Education, we have put an equity formula. That means the more SEF the school gets, the less MOE share that we will get from the national fund. So ito po yung portion na inilagay namin, and I'm sure NCR hindi na ho talaga namin binibigyan kasi by experience nakita nga po namin pag binigyan namin ng school MOE, for example, Taguig, Pasig, Quezon City, Manila, Caloocan, Makati, hindi po nila nagagamit yung MOE na galing sa DepEd dahil sobra-sobra po talaga yung SEF nila. So that equity formula will now help schools that are coming from cities and municipalities na maliit po yung SEF. But I think we have to improve kasi we are working with DOF, and this is a good opportunity dahil sometimes yung report po ng superintendents namin ay hindi nagmamatch sa report na nakukuha namin sa DOF. Yung pong SEF na nare-report sa amin sa DepEd sometimes is lower. And we are now finding ways para po nga maging transparent din yung pag-report ng SEF. Dahil yun po ang gagamitin namin na formula kung saan mas konti ang SEF, sana mabigyan po namin through the national government. Thank you.
Salamat. Ang ganda po nung ganong update ninyo, Yusek Sevilla and Sec, about that equity formula. It reminds me of yung mga long-time advocacies din ng iba sa amin. Halimbawa na dun sa pagkuwenta ng, ano ba yun, yung IRA. Okay, but this was an earlier incarnation na. No? We have an evolution on that. Pero may mga long-time advocacies na bukod sa tatlong orig na criteria para kwentahin yung IRA, dapat yung isang additional criteria ay yung poverty incidence. Same thing for labor movement na kaya may advocacy sila na tigilin na yung regional wage setting kasi when will less developed regions or when will 4 to 6 class municipalities ever catch up kung kahit dun sa mga financial mechanisms na gano'n, parang walang itong equity formula na ipinapasok nyo ngayon sa SEF. So I really thank you for that update. It's always one of those innovations na nakakapagbigay ng dagdag pag-asa when we hear it being pioneered in departments. As a last question, thank you, Madam Chair. Last question na lang for tonight. So to help us in the committee to appreciate how DepEd intends to empower principals in school-level education governance financially, meron po bang mechanism para o may mechanism na ba in place para i-monitor yung school level generation and mobilization of funds and how these funds are utilized to contribute to the education sector's target outcome and goal. At ito po naririnig ko rin yung ganitong concern at kaya ko itatanong in relation dun sa isang assessment na masyadong centralized pa daw hanggang sa ngayon yung ating education system.
Yes, thank you. Yusek Sevilla of the Finance Run will answer.
Thank you po, ma'am. We have a policy na meron pong MOE transparency sa ating lahat ng eskwelahan. So ito po ay magandang impormasyon na malaman ng ating mga magulang, mag-aaral. Hanapin niyo po yung board sa lahat ng eskwelahan dahil meron po doon nakalagay school budget or MOE transparency board. Doon po nakalagay kung magkano natatanggap nila from DepEd, from the local government to the SEF, or other incomes na meron po sila, or revenue generation na meron sila. And through the PTA, the Parent Teacher Association, ito rin po yung paraan kung saan matatanong din nila kung ano ba yung mga kulang na resources. And honestly, we will admit, hindi po talaga kasya ang resources na available ngayon, kahit pagsamahin pa po yung national and local. Most of them are also asking the alumni, the parents to contribute. But it would really be helpful kung alam niyo po kung nasaan itong board na to, yung MOE Transparency Board or the School Budget Board, para po lahat tayo na nagpupunta sa eskwelahan, alam natin kung ano ang nagagawa ng ating mga principal. Marami po sa mga principal natin actually are very creative, resourceful, and isa nga po sa kanilang competency will be public relation, PR. Kasama na rin po yun sa pagkaano nila ng income generation para magkaroon po ng additional revenue for the school.